For the next part, we will go over simplifying complex objects into basic shapes. Starting with this complex wooden toy. Let's deconstruct this into basic shapes, starting of course with the bounding box. No horizon line, no vanishing points, just mental calculations. Again, this will come with practice, so don't worry if it looks off the first time you do it. I drew the bounding box for the main body and another flat one for the harvester part in the front. Now we can go in and start adding the parts of the main vehicle. I draw the main box of the vehicle, still using the same perspective line from the bounding box. Next, the back side of the cabin, which is another box. Then the seating box. Now I draw the main body below all of them. That's what is good about drawing wooden toys. They are the essence of drawing basic shapes and turning them into complex objects. And you will move on to actual vehicles after that, which is basically the same concept of wooden toys but with more smooth edges. Even though I can't see the front of the platform, I can still tell how it will look like underneath it. That's why drawing through objects is important. Even if you don't see it, think about how it will look like if you took it apart. Drawing things all the way through will help you attach other objects to it, without having to guess where things connect with each other. Now for the harvester, there is another box at the main body with two arms on each side. We'll leave the harvester at that because I need to know where the ground is. So let's draw the wheels so I can anchor the vehicle on the ground and get a sense of it. I draw the first rectangle for the back wheel and duplicate the space to get one wheel in between the front wheel and the back wheel. I draw the first ellipse and then extend it with the perspective lines outward, and it will give me the thickness of the wheel. Let's add some details inside of the rim. Then I will copy the whole thing forward and adjust the size a little bit due to it being closer in perspective. I can judge the size by making sure both wheels are on the same line. Now that I know where the ground is, I can move on with the harvest. I draw the first arm and copy it to the other side. The other side has to fit the same projection of the first one, since they are parallel to each other. This is how you keep your drawing from getting distorted. For the wheels in the middle, I draw the full bounding box for all of them combined together. Then I draw the first box for the first wheel and the space behind it. Then I copy the wheel and the space 3 more times toward the back. Now I can use the wheel center to find out where the other wheels will be in relation to the first one. We did this before with the measurement lesson, if you want to review it before moving on. The fourth wheel isn't all the way to the back, so let's stretch the whole face so it fits better. Now I can extend each rectangle back to get the 4 boxes for the wheels. All I have to do now is to draw the front and connect in between them. I draw the boxes on a new layer because the lines are getting a bit too distracting. Now I can draw the ellipses. I adjust the position a little bit to make sure it fits the reference. And now I can redraw the arms to fit the new wheels. The other arm was a bit too far away, so let's move it in a bit. Finally, let's add some details like the pipes in between the wheels. Now I can delete the parts that are getting inside the wheel and get overlapped by the back of the wheels. Let's go back to the main vehicle and add the roof and the pillars holding it. The pillars are two smooth boxes on both sides, with the same height as the back wall of the cabinet. Finally, the roof, which is a smooth box on top of the cabinet. The dashboard is half a circle with a box on the bottom, so I can either use a pen or draw the center of it and freehand it in the top rectangle. Then I extend it backward for the thickness. Next are the headlights, which are two cylinders on each column. Finally, little arc box in the bottom for the dashboard. The wheel seems a bit too small. If you look at the reference, they reach the bottom of the main body of the vehicle. So let's delete one wheel, scale the back wheel, and copy it again to the front. Okay, let's do some cleanup here and there. I forgot to add the pipe in the back, which is very easy. A cylinder with a bend at the end and another cylinder on top. And this is basically it. All I have to do now is to lower the opacity, add a new layer, and clean up the drawing with line weight and line quality. I'm redrawing everything, including the wheels, using freehand instead of tools to make it look similar to the rest of the drawing, not too clean and not too sharp. I'm rotating the canvas as much as possible to make sure I get the curves right. Add in different ways to external edges, internal ones, overlapping objects, and so on. Okay, I redo the whole thing now. We can adjust the line weight even more now while looking at the overall drawing. And here it is, all done. I can add some basic values to make it stand out from the background. And this is it. You can take it even further if you want, full values and full colors, but for now, let's move on to the next step of basic shapes, going for realism. Let's draw a real car. It's the same concept as the toy car but with smoother edges. So let's draw over the car to see what are the parts we need to worry about. The main body, the wheels, and the interior. It's actually easier than the previous vehicle parts-wise, but less obvious in the basic shapes department. So let's see where the body will be in comparison to the wheels and the windshield. Once we figure out the divisions horizontally, I can divide the bounding box into the same measurements. As for vertically, you can see a visible cut at the first door, the second, and the back side. So you can either make it equal parts like I'm doing here, or judge it as you see fit. You might be right or wrong, and if so, you can modify it later. I copy these divisions to the other side so I can have all divisions on all sides of the bounding box. Let's draw the car now, starting with the main body. Full freehand here. We will learn about different techniques to approach the organic shapes in the second chapter, but for now, let's draw it as close as possible. I draw the first edge of the car that is near to us, then the middle part, and finally the back. I make sure the curves fit with both sides, so the car doesn't look distorted. Now I connect in between to get the shape of the hood. I do the same for the front of the car and the recess area for the headlights. Even with curved lines, you have to keep the perspective angle in mind. Don't make it look off. Even curved lines have to follow a vanishing point. Now the front is done, we can complete the rest of the body. I add the segment for the doors along with the rest of the body. I can already see that the 3 equal parts won't work. The perspective is too distorted, so the hood is actually longer in reality. So let's adjust that to fit the front wheel. Since I'm sketching the whole thing, I will do the same for the wheels, taking my time to sketch the ellipse of the wheel in its place. Looks good enough for now. We can clean it up the final stage. Let's add the rest of the body and the other wheel. Again, the bounding box seems a bit too short, so we might get out of the box a little bit. It's okay as long as the final drawing looks good. Now let's add the windows and the roof. Moving on to the front to get the other side of the windshield and connect it back to the roof. I will deal with the interior later. Let's finish the exterior first. Added the other wheel on the same alignment with the front wheel from the other side. Now adding the little details here and there, like the handle, the windows division, and the hood form lines. Okay, let's add the interior now. The top part seems a bit skewed, so I will select it and modify it a bit. Now adding the interior chairs, both in the front and the back. The bounding box did its job, so let's hide it and move on to the final detail phase. The car as a whole is too bulky, so let's modify it a bit by distorting it to look like the reference image. Added the final touches now. And it's done. The only thing left is to add the line quality and line weight, and we will be good to go. And this is it. This is the final drawing all done. Don't worry about the line weight demonstration that I'm skipping. We have few exercises coming to talk in length about the line weight and line quality. So stay tuned for that later. Now this is in no way the only option to draw cars. There are so many different ways to do it, like for example the way Scott Robertson drew cars by using the body first. But this is just building on what we learned so far. We will build up on how to draw vehicles later on. Now let's move on to more concept art stuff like props. This is what I do on a daily basis, so let's draw some of them. I didn't draw this one. This is from a game called Star Citizen, which is a handheld multi-tool. But looking at it, you still can deconstruct it into basic shapes. We have a handle as a box, the main part as a box as well, and a cylinder underneath it. So let's draw it like that, starting with the main bounding box. I'm trying here to get as close as possible to the main shape, without going into details. Just a box with a tapered shape at the end. Another box for the handle, and we can smooth it up later on. For the canister, it's simply a cylinder, with some details we will add later on. Let's now lower the opacity and start sketching the details. Not full on details, just the main ones. I can now start dividing the bigger shapes into medium ones, going from large to small. As always, moving from major shapes to medium details to fine details. This is how it should always be. The large part of the body is added now. We can move on to the front shape of the nozzle. Even if things look a bit off or not 100% accurate or too messy, this is the sketch phase. We can fix anything you see here, so don't worry about it, as long as you keep the things in perspective and as accurate as possible. But don't take too long on detailing here. We will do that later. This is the main shapes phase. Now adding the details to the canister and its holder. Moving back to the handle now, I'm observing the placement of each item in regard to items around it. So what is on top of the trigger button? What is below it? What is to the side? What aligns with the top and the bottom of each and everything? All these questions are going on while sketching, so nothing is being placed by accident. All the technical drawing calculations are happening mentally, and only the results are being put on paper. Adding more details to the handle and the middle part of the gun. I'm moving on to medium to small details now, dividing the medium areas into smaller ones and adding small details here and there. I forgot to finish the backside, so let's do that now. Okay, the main shape is now done. Let's hide the bounding box and lower the opacity so we can add a new layer to draw the final details. I'm moving a bit slower now and taking my time adding the details. This is the fun part. I'm no longer worried about messing up the shape of the gun. Everything is laid down on the previous sketch, so I'm taking my time and enjoying the detailing part. The lines are also calmer, cleaner, and more precise than the previous sketch. I'm also aware of the line weight here, so not everything is drawn in heavy lines. The best trick is to draw everything in thin lines and then increase the thickness as you move toward the important parts, like exterior lines, overlapping, and so on. We are almost done. So let's add the final touches and fine-tune details here and there. Okay, we are almost done. Let's hide the previous sketch and check out the final details like textures, labels, riveting holes, and so on. Okay, let's copy this to a new layer and make it black. It's ready now to add values. I will not make it to the absolute finalization, just adding flat colors to make sure each part stands out. So I'll add the main values first, and then add the colors to each separate part. This is enough for me for now, but you can go on and add values and shadows and highlight as you wish. But for now, this example on basic shapes has reached its end. So let's move on to dynamic sketching and line weight with more exercises to do next. But we will do that in the next video. See you there. As always, if you like this video, feel free to leave a like. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section and I will do my best to answer them as soon as possible. To stay notified for future lessons, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.